Welcome to Can Do Spanish by SpanishPod101.com.
Hola a todos, soy Víctor Trejo. Hi everyone, I'm Víctor Trejo. In this lesson, you'll learn how to make small talk about the weather.
Want to know if your Spanish skills are improving and what your real learning level is? Get your language skills assessed with our free level assessment test. Just click the link in the description and sign up for a free lifetime account to get assessed.
This is Karen Lee. She sees her neighbor, Claudia Borrego, and starts a conversation by saying, "It's so hot."
Hace mucho calor.
Listen to the conversation and focus on Karen's comment. Ready?
Hace mucho calor.
Sí, ¿verdad?
Once more with the English translation.
Hace mucho calor.
It's so hot.
Sí, ¿verdad?
Yes, right?
Let's take a closer look at the conversation.
Do you remember how Karen says, "It's so hot"?
Hace mucho calor.
Let's start with
Calor.
meaning heat.
Calor. Calor.
In Spanish, all nouns have grammatical gender and are either singular or plural.
Calor.
Is masculine and singular, a fact that will determine the form of other words in the sentence. Before
Calor.
is
Mucho.
literally much, but translates as so, as in so hot.
Mucho. Mucho. Mucho.
Is masculine singular to agree with.
Calor.
Together,
Mucho calor.
literally much heat, but translates as so hot.
Mucho calor.
Starting the sentence is
Hace.
translating as in it is, in this context.
Hace. Hace.
Note,
Hace.
is from the verb
Hacer.
meaning to do or to make. But in this instance, when talking about the weather, it translates as to be.
Hace.
Altogether,
Hace mucho calor.
literally, it makes much heat, but translates as it's so hot.
Hace mucho calor.
Karen is expecting her neighbor to respond after she says,
Hace mucho calor.
Let's take a closer look at the response.
"Do you remember how the neighbor says, 'Yes, right'?"
Sí, ¿verdad?
First is
Sí.
meaning yes.
Sí. Sí.
Next is
¿Verdad?
translating as right.
Verdad. ¿Verdad?
Here,
¿Verdad?
right is used to express agreement with the speaker. Notice the intonation, illustrating strong agreement. Translation note:
¿Verdad?
could translate here as isn't it, as in yes, it's hot, isn't it? Altogether,
Sí, ¿verdad?
yes, right?
Sí, ¿verdad?
The pattern is
Hace. Weather condition.
it's weather condition.
Hace. Weather condition.
To use this pattern, simply replace the weather condition placeholder with a weather condition. Note, this pattern requires a noun or a noun phrase. In this lesson, you'll learn nouns related to the weather that you can use with this pattern. Imagine it's cold.
Frío.
cold.
Frío. Frío.
Before
Frío.
is
Mucho.
so in this context.
Mucho.
Say, it's so cold. Ready?
Hace mucho frío.
It's so cold.
Hace mucho frío.
In Spanish, there are several patterns used to talk about the weather. This lesson focuses on the pattern hace weather condition. However, in Spanish, you can't use any noun with this construction. It's restricted to a small set of nouns, such as the nouns covered in this lesson and some others. Sol, sun. Viento, wind. Buen tiempo, nice weather. Mal tiempo, bad weather, among others.
Let's look at some more examples. Listen and repeat or speak along with the native speakers.
Hace mucho calor. Hace mucho calor.
Hace mucho frío. Hace mucho frío.
Hace mucho viento. Hace mucho viento.
Hace buen tiempo. Hace buen tiempo.
¿Qué calor hace? ¿Qué calor hace? Did you notice how I used a different pattern?
Wondering how you can master these conversations even faster? Here's how. 1. Read along. You get the lesson conversation and translations inside our dialogue tool, so that you see each word as you hear it and understand it all. 2. Practice speaking. By shadowing what you hear, you can also record and compare yourself with native speakers with our voice recording tools. And 3. Take our assessment tests and see how much you remember. These tools are part of our Can-Do course. Just click the link in the description to get them.
¿Qué calor hace?
How hot it is. Or in more natural English, how hot.
¿Qué calor hace?
First is
¿Qué?
what or how in this context.
¿Qué? ¿Qué?
Next is
Calor.
heat.
Calor.
Finally,
Hace.
translating as in it is, in this context.
Hace.
Altogether,
¿Qué calor hace?
literally, what heat it makes, but translates as how hot.
¿Qué calor hace?
This pattern uses an exclamation and is meant to elicit a response from the listener. The pattern is
¿Qué weather condition hace?
how weather condition it is. To use this pattern, simply replace the weather condition placeholder with the weather condition. Note, this pattern requires a noun. For example,
¿Qué frío hace?
how cold it is. Or, in more natural English, how cold.
¿Qué frío hace?
You should be aware of this pattern, but you won't need it for this lesson. Let's review the new vocabulary.
Frío.
Cold,
Frío. Frío. Viento.
wind,
Viento. Viento. Buen tiempo.
nice weather,
Buen Tiempo. Buen tiempo.
Let's review. Respond to the prompts by speaking aloud. Then repeat after me, focusing on pronunciation. Ready? Do you remember how to say hot, literally heat? Calor. Calor. And how to say so hot, literally much heat? Mucho calor. Mucho calor. Do you remember how Karen Lee says, "It's so hot"?
Hace mucho calor.
Hace mucho calor. Do you remember how to say yes? Sí. Sí. And do you remember how Claudia Borrego says, "Yes, right"?
Sí, ¿verdad?
Sí, ¿verdad? Do you remember how to say cold? Frío. Frío. And how to say wind? Viento. Viento. Do you remember how to say nice weather? Buen tiempo. Buen tiempo.
Let's practice. Imagine you're Claudia, Karen's neighbor. Comment to Karen that it's very cold. Ready?
Hace mucho frío.
Sí, ¿verdad?
Listen again and repeat.
Hace mucho frío. Hace mucho frío.
Let's try another. Imagine you're Ben Lee. Comment to your classmates that it's very windy. Ready?
Hace mucho viento.
Sí, ¿verdad?
Listen again and repeat.
Hace mucho viento. Hace mucho viento.
Let's try one more. Imagine you're Mark Lee. Comment to your neighbor on how nice the weather is. Ready?
Hace buen tiempo.
Sí, ¿verdad?
Listen again and repeat.
Hace buen tiempo. Hace buen tiempo.
¿Verdad? Is a universal tag question that can be attached to most statements. Think of it like the right in the sentence. It's good, right? Like tag questions in English, it comes in handy when you seek agreement or have confidence in what you just said. It's also easy to use since it doesn't depend on the verb of the statement. This is the end of this lesson.
Now, here's what you can do to cement this conversation in your head. Review the conversation with our dialogue tool and lesson transcripts. Study the key words and phrases with our spaced repetition flashcards. Review the key grammar and cultural tips inside the lesson notes. And test yourself with our assessment tests. So click the link in the description right now and sign up for your free lifetime account to access our Can-Do course.
Now you know how to give an opinion about the weather in Spanish. That's all there is to it. Keep practicing and move on to the next lesson.